We're Malin and Johan, a Swedish couple that have been sailing full-time since 2016. After 3.5 years of sailing, we welcomed our daughter Vera on board. Our latest adventure is to build our dream boat, a 50-foot sailboat that we're building ourselves on our farm. Welcome aboard and please subscribe for weekly episodes. Last week we started with the preparations for laminating the hull. We removed 3,000 screws and washers, started sanding and made recesses. Johan is still at it with the sanding. He never stopped. He's sanding around the keel pocket so that he can start working on that later. After sanding, he makes a radius with the router on the edge of the keel pocket.
So the keel pocket is almost finished. But I have also decided that I'm going to raise the floor in here a few millimeters. Because right now with the depth that we have here, we would have to add roughly 12 layers of fiberglass to get to the correct height. And that would in turn add quite a lot to the thickness of the hull out here and alter the shape of the design shape, which would mean that we would have to do a lot of fairing here on the sides to get that in line with the rest of the hull. So instead of doing that, I will take it down to roughly 6 layers here on the outside, and then we will add the bulk of the fiberglass from the inside of the hull, where the shape, if we alter the shape of the hull on the inside, that doesn't matter really. And it's easier since we don't have a keel pocket on the inside. So we will add the bulk of the thickness from that side once the hull is turned over. So what I have left to do here is I will need to remove this tape again and glue down a board and then add the tape again. And then this edge, the corner in here, I'm thinking I will add a small radius there as well, to make it easier also for the fiberglass to conform. But for this piece we will use vacuum bagging, so that will also help to really push the fiberglass into the corners. But I'm still thinking we need to have a radius down here. So yeah, this is how it is sometimes building a boat. You do something and then you think about it for a few weeks and then you maybe it wasn't perfect, maybe I should change that, and this is one of those cases. And it's nice when you catch it before it's too late, and I'm thinking this will be a lot better by getting the floor up a bit.
Johan cuts out the boards that will go into the keel pocket to raise the floor. Johan bonds the board to the underlying wood with fast-drying glue. New tape goes on so that the fiberglass won't stick. In the bottom of the pocket, Johan makes a radius from thickened epoxy to make it easier for the fiberglass to get into the corners. The nights have been cold lately, but during the days we've still had temperatures over 20 degrees. And this makes for foggy mornings.
So we're at the point in this whole project where we're getting into a lot of sanding. And the sanding is a lot of work, and when you're having a 50-foot hull that we need to sand a lot of times, it really matters what type of tools you have to your disposal for that. And the other day I started to sand the turn of the bilge on the other side of the hull. So that's almost finished now, to take on some epoxy to fill those gaps at the turn of the bilge. The problem is with strip planking, with the width of the planks that we've been using, is that you create small flat spots when the hull is turning inwards. And we need to knock those down so we have a nice radius. So we have some material that we need to remove. And for that, I've been using many different machines here, but mainly these three. First off, I use this angle grinder looking machine, but it's really a polishing machine, so it has it's geared down lower. It's a really strong machine, and you can also change the rotation speed electronically. I use that with Velcro disc 150 millimeters. And this machine really removes a lot of material fast, but you also need to really know what you're doing and hold on to the machine because it's really strong. One downside is that it's pretty heavy and there's no dust extraction, which is not very nice when you're indoors like we are here. I also been using this Mirka random orbital sander. And this is a bit special because it has a movement of 8 millimeters, which is a lot. So this also removes quite a lot of material, but it also leaves a bit nicer surface compared to this one. And it's really light. So when you're using it a lot, this doesn't wear you down as quickly. So I wouldn't be using this for furniture, you know, if you really want to have a really nice finish, but if you want to cover a big surface fast and remove some material, this is really nice with the 8 millimeter movement of the plate. I also have this Bosch random orbital sander, but with forced rotation on top of that, so you can put it in turbo mode and it will have a forced rotation. So in that mode, it removes about 4 times as much material compared to when it's just a normal orbital sander. And that's really a great machine for a job like this. The only downside is that it's pretty heavy. It's about the same weight as the polishing machine. But it's nice to have a machine. It's really like you have 3 machines in one. Because with this one you can do polishing, You can do nice sanding. The movement of the plate on this machine is 5 millimeters, so more finer, if you can say it like that. But then on top of that, you also have the turbo mode where you lock the rotation, so you really remove a lot of material. So this is actually a really nice machine. I think of all the machines I have there, if I only could keep one, especially having one sander on the boat in the future, this is a really nice tool to have, since you have a lot of machines in one. And you can even polish the top sides on the boat and really remove anti-fouling paint really fast when you're redoing the bottom of the hull, and also just sand finer stuff. So really versatile tool. And then we have this one, also a Bosch, but this is just a normal random orbital sander. The nice one with this one is that it really prevents you from getting white fingers from the vibrations. You can sand all day with this machine and not feeling any tingling in your fingers, which is really nice when you have a big project like this. So I like this tool, but the removal rate isn't very big. It's more for finer stuff, so I won't be using it a lot now for the outside of the hull. But later on, for the inside, the interior, this will be used a lot. Yeah, and last but not least, I've been using this DeWalt sanding machines. In direct translation, in Swedish we call them giraffe sander. I don't know if you call them that in English. But they're mainly used for drywall sanding, big flat areas. So you have this 225 millimeter disc, so you can cover a lot of surface area fast. It's not so good for the curved areas on the hull, but I've been using it for the flat areas down here just to cover big area fast. And for that, it's been really good. And also the dust extraction works really well because you have these strands around the disc here. It almost sucks itself onto the hull when you're using it. So let's get into it.
Johan gears up to sand starboard side of the hull. Johan's been working solo for the last couple of days, since I've been busy with another project that we're very close to launch.
Yeah, yesterday was a lot of heavy sanding and I almost made it the whole way, but I still have a few meters left. So that's the plan for today, to finish that. And also I will start or sanding the bottom part of the hull, at least behind the keel. And obviously this type of sanding is not really to get the hull fair. That's something that we'll get into later on, once we have the fiberglass on the hull and we're starting to fair and sand the hull with torture boards or long boards to bridge those uneven areas of the hull. And that's not something you can do with an orbital sander or a random orbital sander, since the disc area is not very flexible and it's quite small, so it will dip into those uneven parts of the hull. So the sanding I'm doing now is more to get rid of the flat spots, and also if there's any misalignment between the strips, and remove excess epoxy and stuff like that, just to prepare the hull for the fiberglass. Yeah, so it's going to be another day of a lot of sanding, or maybe I should say glorious sanding, like Mats on Sail Life. And Mats, if you're watching this video, I know that you really are into sanding, so you're more than welcome to come and help me out.
After all that sanding, everything in the barn was covered with very fine cedar dust. So time to clean again.
Well, there was a lot of sanding in this episode, and the barn looks pretty decent again. Most of the dust is removed, and I hope this was the last time that we had to use an orbital sander like that without having the vacuum attached, removing this amount of material, because it's really produced a lot of dust in here. But it feels nice to have it done. We have a pretty fair curve now all along the turn of the bilge. But as you can imagine, I've been through quite many discs to be able to do this, around 150 of these, so quite many. There is not a lot of sanding left to be done now before we can start the fiberglass operation. We just need to fill the gaps, like I said before, and also these holes, and maybe do some sanding on that. But other from that, the keel pocket is finished. We can start with the fiberglass on that. And yeah, we just need to remove these screws down here along the shear line and attach those from the inside instead. But then we can really start. But we're still waiting for the epoxy, but the fiberglass actually arrived a few days ago. But I will talk more about that in next week's episode. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you would like to contribute to our production, you can join our Patreon crew.